Hello, my name is Martina and this video is about how I got pregnant with PCOS. I am currently 18 weeks pregnant with my baby boy and I wanted to make this video to maybe give you some hope or help you through the process if you are also experiencing the same issues that I had. So how did I find out I had PCOS? So the whole thing started when I was about 14, 15. I got my first period when I was 13 and that was basically the only period I got for the following 2-3 years. So I did exams, went to my gyno, did everything that I needed to do. I was still living in Italy back then because, well, I'm Italian, and the doctor told me that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. At the time, because I was really young, I didn't really look into it a lot. So I just did what the doctor told me to do, which was taking a tablet I took this tablet for a few years, and this tablet would basically induce a bleed. It was not a period because I was not ovulating, it was just a bleed. And when I was about 17, I went on birth control. So fast forward about 10 years, when I was 26 years old, about 2 years ago, I decided that I wanted to have a baby. So I stopped taking birth control. And for some reason, I thought that I was healthy. I thought my body healed on its own, and I was like, oh yeah, no worries. I will get pregnant in the next few months. Also, looking at movies and television, we always are given this idea that you have sex once and you get pregnant, which in most cases it's not what happens. So I stopped birth control in June, and I actually got a period the month after. And I know that doctors say that the period that you get after stopping birth control is a withdrawal bleed. But in my case, I still think that I ovulated because I had ovulation symptoms that I never got while being on birth control. And because of that, I was actually really happy. I thought, okay, yeah, easy. I could have gotten pregnant this month. It will definitely happen in the next few months. However, it did not happen. That was actually the only natural period that I got for a year. So what did I do after this? I could see that I was not getting a period for months and months. I started looking into the whole thing because I knew from when I was 15 that I had polycystic ovaries. So I went to my GP and they did some blood tests, and basically they told me that the blood tests were fine and they could not see anything wrong with them, which was actually not true. But I do not want to say that GPs are not good or anything like that. Based on everything that I've read and listened to, it's not their fault. The thing is that most doctors are not trained on conditions like polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I took matters into my own hands, and the first thing I did was ordering some blood tests through Medichecks, which is basically an online service that ships you home a kit to do your own blood test. You basically prick your finger and you put quite a lot of blood into this little tube, and they have these various different tests for the thing that you want to test for. So I chose the one for polycystic ovaries. And I actually really like this service because when you get the results back, you also have a note from the doctor which basically helps you interpret the results. And in my case, it told me, yes, you do have polycystic ovaries, my testosterone was really high and my LH to FSH ratio was all wrong. So it was clear that I had an issue with polycystic ovaries. I did actually so many tests during the past year and a half that I can't even remember all of them. I also had clear symptoms of PCOS. The first one was absence of periods. I also had a lot of hair loss from my head and hair growth on the rest of my body. So basically, I was getting hair where you shouldn't get it, and I was losing it from you would want to have hair. I did not have acne, for example, but every woman is different. So every woman can experience a variety of symptoms. You can have weight gain, acne, hair loss, hair growth. You can even have like almost nothing. So every woman is different. I started doing a lot of research into the topic because PCOS it's one of those conditions that it's really hard to find someone who is very well trained into the topic, and you really have to do most of the work by yourself. So what did I do? So I read books, not based on the order that I read them. I read Period Repair Manual by Lara Briden, which also discusses PCOS and how to deal with it. I read In the Flow, which is not particularly focused on PCOS, but it touches on it, and it's also a really good book in general on how to live and adapt your life based on the different phases of your cycle. I also read Getting Pregnant with PCOS by Claire Goodwin. I actually found this really insightful. It helps me a lot. The last book actually that I read was It Starts with the Egg from Rebecca Fett. This is not focused on PCOS, but it does talk about it. And I found all these books really helpful in my research. I also listened to podcasts, watched videos. I literally spent months just doing research on this. Yeah, basically I started changing my life based on this condition, because the thing is that there is no cure for PCOS and you just have to manage it with lifestyle and diet changes. So I changed my diet. I started basically having a low carb, low sugar diet rich in protein and fiber. I replaced refined carbohydrates with complex carbohydrates, and I was really strict with this. So I think I did not eat a pizza, for example, for more than a year. I did not eat dessert, and something that worked for me, again, it's not the same for every woman. Every woman's body is different. For me, I found that I had to be particularly strict. Even things like certain fruits like bananas or dates, they are actually quite sugary. So even those I would not eat. So yeah, basically I was focusing on low glycemic index foods. Also exercise. I was already exercising. I've always been very fit throughout my life. I changed my exercise routine a little bit. So the thing that I found worked miracles for me was walking. So I really tried to walk as much as possible. I switched to doing maybe low intensity workouts, but still like using weights. So yeah, maybe I was doing a lot of high intensity workouts before, and I switched to lower intensity workouts because based on what I read, doing very high intensity workouts for a long period of time can raise your cortisol, which is not good when you have PCOS. Another test that I did by myself So based on everything that I've read, the high majority of women with PCOS have insulin resistance, which is what causes PCOS. And this was a little mind-blowing for me because I thought that the cause of PCOS was PCOS, but that is actually not true. There is always a root cause for your PCOS, and in like the 70 or 80% of women with PCOS, it's insulin resistance. So I thought, okay, I need to check if I have this. I went to my GP and they tested my blood sugar, which was fine. I don't have a problem with my blood sugar. The thing is that testing the blood sugar is not a good way to see if you have insulin resistance. So I was speaking with a woman from Italy who also has PCOS, and she said, I did this DNA test, and basically they tell you a myriad of things about which foods you should eat, if you're lactose intolerant, and they also tell you if you are insulin resistant. So I went to Italy and did this test. It was quite expensive, it was about 300 euros, but at this point I was prepared to do anything, and I was really lucky because I had the chance to pay for all of these tests and treatments. So I did the test, and yes, it confirmed that I do have insulin resistance and I am predisposed to type 2 diabetes. So that was really, even though normally it's not a good thing to hear, but it was good for me because at least I knew what I had to do to make my condition better. I also started taking supplements. So again, maybe do your own research on this. I tried different supplements. The main ones that I took for the whole time, and some of them I'm still taking them now that I'm pregnant, are inositol, which is basically for insulin resistance. I also tried berberine, which is another supplement for insulin resistance. I was taking prenatal vitamins because I was trying to get pregnant, so it's also important to take them even before you do get pregnant. I was taking NAC, not sure how to pronounce it. It's N-acetylcysteine, and it's on the books that I read, it's advised to take this supplement for PCOS. I think it's rich in antioxidants or something like that. I was also taking saw palmetto, which I'm not taking now because it's not safe for pregnancy. Saw palmetto, it's something that can help with testosterone, basically. So I was doing all of these things and I did feel a lot better. My hair stopped falling out so much. I was losing weight. I had a lot of energy. I was not as tired as I was before. So I was feeling a lot better. However, my period was still not coming. Throughout this time, I also went to see a private gyno in London to talk about the options that I had to conceive. And he said, you know, you're young. I was 27 at the time. I don't want to give you drugs right now. I mean, if you want, I can give them to you, but if I were you, I would wait. Just because you are young, you still have time. Just let nature do its thing. So I agreed with him. I was like, yeah, you know what? Because I really wanted for this pregnancy to happen naturally. So I was like, yeah, okay, you're right. I will wait for a bit and we'll see what happens. So in the meantime, I was also being referred by my GP to a fertility clinic with the NHS, and because the whole process took quite a long time, so I was still like doing that. I think I got referred in December and I got called by the clinic around May of the next year. I started doing, so while I was doing all of this diet and supplements and exercise, I was still doing everything. I also started having consultations with the fertility clinic. And I was still living in Croydon at the time, so I was going through the fertility clinic in Croydon. And yeah, basically I had conversation with the doctor. I requested if possible, to be prescribed letrozole. Usually the two ovulation inducing drugs that are administered are either Clomid or letrozole, and I read that Clomid basically gives you more side effects and a higher chance of conceiving twins compared to letrozole. Letrozole is actually a drug used for breast cancer, but one of its side effects is that it induces ovulation. So I said, can I take letrozole? And she said yes. So I was prescribed the letrozole tablets. So now, as for my letrozole journey, I did the first letrozole cycle. I think you have to take it for about 5 days. And then I went in for a scan because they wanted to check if I had an egg growing on one of my ovaries. I did. I had an egg growing on my left ovary. So that was all good. I was happy and I actually ovulated that month. Just as a side note, I was tracking my basal body temperature every morning, and I'm going to make a separate video about that because otherwise this video will be too long. But it's how I know that I ovulated. Other than my symptoms, I was tracking my temperature. So that month I ovulated, but I didn't get pregnant. But I was feeling really hopeful because I thought, okay, this worked once, so surely it's going to work again. I tried again, took letrozole for 5 days, and this time it didn't work. So my theory is that my right ovary is not good, because the month before I had made an egg from my left ovary, so I assume that the month after I was making it on my right ovary. And the weird thing is that I had some symptoms, but I did not see, for example, any fertile cervical mucus. I knew that I did not ovulate, and I also had some spotting, which is unusual for me. So I thought, yeah, there is something wrong here. I feel like maybe a follicle developed on my right ovary, but then it did not get released or something like that. I'm not sure what happened. So yeah, that sucked. And then I had a follow-up phone call with the doctor in like a month after that. So I waited. I did not take any other drugs because I wanted to talk to the doctor before I did anything else. And I told her, yeah, first month it worked, second month it didn't. So what should we do? And she was like, okay, do another cycle and come back for another scan. So I took letrozole again, went in for the scan, and she was like, yes, left ovary, you are producing an egg, amazing. Since you didn't ovulate last month though, let's give you an HCG shot. So a few days after that, I gave myself this shot in the right lower part of my belly. That basically is supposed to make sure that the egg is released. So she said, you do the shot on Monday, you will definitely ovulate by Wednesday. Yeah, obviously you are supposed to do your thing in the days before you ovulate. That's when you are the most fertile. It was really useful actually to know exactly the days when it would happen, because for me, even though I was taking letrozole, it was still all a bit messy. My cycles were like super long, so it was not clear when I was supposed to do the deed. I did this HCG shot. It gave me a little bit of side effects, like my belly was feeling super swollen and bloated. That was actually the time when I got pregnant. So this cycle, it worked. I could not believe it. I was so scared that I would lose the pregnancy that I would not allow myself to be really happy about it. I'm going to do a separate video about my pregnancy journey and how PCOS affected that. And I just wanted to touch base on how I think that everything I did before actually allowed me to get pregnant a lot easier. because I was really worried that even with Letrozole it would not happen. I was reading stories of women who would take Letrozole for like a year, but their egg quality was not good, so they would not get pregnant. So I was really worried that that would happen for me as well. And I really do think that everything I was doing before getting pregnant, my diet, exercise, everything, really made sure that my egg quality was good enough for me to, you know, develop the pregnancy into a baby. And if I think about it, I actually only ovulated twice, and the second time I got pregnant. So if I didn't have PCOS, technically, maybe, I don't know, but I could have gotten pregnant in like 2 months. So yes, by the time I got pregnant, I was 28. So it took me overall about a year and a half for the whole thing, which is longer than I ever thought it would take me to get pregnant. But you know, it could be worse. Some women have it a lot worse. Some women have to do IVF and it takes them years and years. So I'm actually really grateful that it was not as difficult for me. Yeah, now that is the story. I hope I was able to help someone or give you any hope. I didn't have any period, so I hear women having irregular periods. I had no periods at all, so I was really worried about this thing not happening for me. I have my 20-week scan in about a couple of weeks, and I am just hoping that the baby is fine and healthy. So yeah, I'm going to make another video or multiple videos about the pregnancy and my symptoms and other things as well. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye!